At 65, I fell in love with painting. Not to make a name for myself, not out of some grand ambition. I just wanted to reclaim something that belonged to me. I signed up for a community college art class. $15 a session 3 times a week. Seniors even got a discount. I thought the people closest to me would be supportive. Not a single one was. My son Miles looked at me, brows furrowed. Mom, 15 a class? Do you realize what you're spending in a week could cover a whole coding lesson for Aiden? Before I could respond, his wife Amber, holding their toddler, chimed in. Exactly. And if you're off at class 3 times a week, who's supposed to watch Aiden? We both work, remember? But the real explosion came from my husband, Harold. Right there, in front of the whole family, he slammed his mug against the kitchen counter. Porcelain shattered and his voice thundered through the room. You're 65 and you're still messing around with this kind of nonsense? If you go through with this damn art class, we're getting a divorce. I didn't say a word. I just looked at him, his eyes bloodshot with rage. This man who dropped $200 a session on cycling workshops like it was nothing. Who went off on week-long bike tours and didn't even call home. And now that I wanted to do something just for me, for once he acted like the world was ending. In that moment something shifted. I stared back at him, my voice calm as still water. All right, let's get a divorce. Lately I've fallen in love with painting. There's something magical about it, how a few strokes can bring the landscapes in your mind to life. It felt like someone had opened a window I never even knew existed, and suddenly, light was pouring into places I hadn't seen in years. Turns out my friend Joan had been taking classes at a senior learning center by the coast. She told me the art center had just launched a painting course, $15 a class with a discount if you signed up for more. I was tempted right away. As soon as I got home, I shared the news with my family, practically glowing with excitement. I want to enroll in that painting class Joan mentioned. It's at the community college near the beach, $15 a session 3 times a week. Morning classes run from 9 to noon, and if I miss one, there's a makeup session in the afternoon from 3 to 5. I already filled out the registration form. The teacher said I can start next week. I was serious, even a little giddy. But the moment I looked up, the energy at the dinner table had shifted. Miles spoke first. Mom, $15 a session isn't cheap. 3 times a week? That's thousands a year. That's money we could put toward Aiden's coding classes. He paused, then added with a hint of reproach, the economy's tight right now. We're already stretched. Can you not waste money on stuff like this? I hadn't planned to say anything back, but his comment triggered something in me. Just last month he'd enrolled Aiden in a cognitive development camp, $200 an hour, and boasted, there's no better investment than the future. The cost of 10 of my painting classes didn't even cover 1 hour of that. So I looked him in the eye. And why is it wasting money when it's my class? Miles tensed. Come on, Mom, you can't compare yourself to a kid. He's still growing, this stuff actually matters. But you. What's the point? You planning to become a professional artist? He gave a humorless laugh. Be realistic. Cooking meals and helping with Aiden is enough. Amber joined in then, gently patting Aiden on the back. And even if money wasn't an issue, if you're off at class every week, who's going to pick him up and drop him off? We both work, you know. I had already thought about that. My class times perfectly overlapped with Aiden's preschool schedule. There was no conflict. But Amber kept pushing, her brows drawn tight. Can you guarantee you won't forget? What if there's an emergency? What if the school can't reach you? Her voice was rising now. So your little art dream is more important than your grandson? Are you really going to be that selfish? What kind of grandma does that? I was stunned for a second, completely at a loss. I turned to Harold, just hoping for a flicker of understanding. Instead he erupted. He grabbed the glass from the table and hurled it at the floor. It shattered, water splashing, shards flying. I've barely been home for a few days and already you're stirring up this crap? He growled, standing up. His eyes were dark, like the ocean before a storm. You're 65 and you think now's the time to play around with painting? Don't turn your silly little hobbies into some kind of life mission. His breath was ragged, finger jabbing toward me. If you're really going to take this class, then we're done. You're out of this house. And there they were, 3 people I loved most in this world. One calling me wasteful. One calling me heartless. And one threatening to leave me altogether. I looked at them and felt something inside me collapse. Not from grief but from realization. Decades. I had spent decades doing the laundry, cooking the meals, raising the kids, sacrificing my passions, my time, my freedom. All of it apparently a joke. A bad one. Fine, I said, voice steady. Let's get a divorce. And the strangest thing? Saying it felt light. For years Harold had dangled that word, divorce, like a noose. Every argument, every disagreement, he'd bring it up, using it to break me, to force me into silence. And it used to work. The very thought of growing old alone terrified me. I used to think, no matter how bad it gets, having someone there is better than being by yourself. But now I finally saw it. If companionship demands the death of who you are, then maybe solitude isn't so bad. He clearly didn't expect me to agree so easily. A flicker of panic flashed across Harold's face, though he tried to cover it with bluster. What? I'm wrong now? Look at you, you've lost your damn mind over some painting class. I let out a laugh, sharp, bitter, and snapped back. I've lost my mind? Really? What about you? You're out there spending $200 a pop on cycling classes, pedaling through storms like you're auditioning for the Tour de France. Gone for weeks at a time. And you think that's normal? Tell me, when was the last time you actually took care of this family for even one day? My voice cracked halfway through and my eyes burned hot. Because I'm human. And yes, I feel hurt too. I've spent half a lifetime running this household, juggling everything, sacrificing everything, only to be told now that I don't even deserve a simple hobby? Miles, noticing I was upset, stepped over and pulled me aside. His brow was furrowed, his tone tense. Mom, how can you even compare yourself to Dad? He's worked his whole life, busted his back for this family. He just wants to enjoy himself a little now. Isn't that fair? And you, he went on. You've been at home all this time doing nothing and now suddenly you're chasing some dream? What right do you have? I stared at my son, the boy I raised, the boy I gave my life to, and as those words came out of his mouth his face became unfamiliar to me. Had he forgotten? Back when his father was constantly away on business trips, who made sure he was fed, clean and safe. Who stood in the kitchen every night, folded his laundry, waited in the ER during those scary midnight fevers. The year we couldn't afford childcare, I dragged him to the factory where I did temp work during the day. At night I worked the graveyard shift as a cashier. That winter I slipped a disc and my back never healed right. But none of that mattered now. In his eyes, the father who popped in with toys and a smile was the one worth remembering. Presence couldn't compete with novelty. And responsibility never stood a chance against a polished illusion. I didn't argue any further. I turned and headed for the bedroom. I started packing. And that's when it hit me, how little I truly had to take with me. One small suitcase barely half full. Just like my life. Decades poured into everyone else's needs. And now I was left with scraps. Just exhaustion. And silence. Miles tried to follow me but Harold yanked him back. She wants to act all high and mighty? Fine, he yelled. Let her walk out. Let's see how long that useless woman lasts out there. I moved in with Joan. She's 5 years older than me. 3 years ago she divorced her husband, because during an argument he slapped her. Back then almost everyone said she was overreacting. It was just a slap during a fight. Big deal. You've made it through decades together and that's what breaks you? I didn't get it at the time. But now. I understand completely. When word got out that I was filing for divorce, the calls came pouring in like a monsoon. Evelyn, have you lost your mind? At your age? Divorce? It's embarrassing. And I'll admit it, I hesitated. But Joan took my hand in hers, looked me straight in the eye and said, Evelyn, it's actually really simple. You just have to ask yourself one question. Have you been happy these past few decades? I looked down at my hands. Rough. Cracked. Covered in calluses. There was a time when they were soft, delicate even. When I loved nothing more than to lose myself in a canvas, spilling color across the page, painting the world I imagined in my mind. A local gallery owner once told me, "You've got talent." But then I got married. And those hands were put to work in the kitchen, scrubbing dishes until they bled in winter, bending over stovetops until my back gave out. The brushes got shelved. The dreams got rinsed away in cycles of laundry soap. I used to think divorce was a joke. A failure. The end of everything. Now I know it's not. Some things are worth taking seriously. I gave the best years of my life to someone who didn't deserve them. What time I have left, I'm keeping it for myself. Joan must have seen the change in my eyes. She smiled and patted my hand. "I'll introduce you to the lawyer who handled my divorce," she said. "She's sharp as hell, especially with women our age. These old men practically wet themselves when she shows up." I took her advice. Called the lawyer the very next day. Her name was Laura Burke. She was brisk, clear, and all business, exactly what I needed. After I signed the paperwork, she sent the first official notice of divorce straight to Harold. It didn't take long for the storm to hit. Harold called, his voice already raised before I said a word. "Evelyn, have you lost your damn mind? Are you done playing your little game yet? Cancel that stupid art class right now. Get back here and start looking after Aiden. If you turn around right now, I'll pretend none of this happened." In the background, Amber was yelling. Aiden was crying. Then came the sound of something crashing. Ceramic, probably. Guess without their dead weight, the household was falling apart. I let out a quiet breath and said coolly, "If you have anything to say, speak to my lawyer. See you in court." Then I hung up. No hesitation. I started my painting classes just like I'd dreamed. 3 sessions a week, and I never missed a single one. Every day I painted, every day I got better. Even my instructor couldn't help but smile and say, "Evelyn, you've really got something. Your brushwork has more life than half the kids in here." That one sentence lit up my whole day. Meanwhile, Laura kept the divorce process moving. She had warned me early on. "You've been married a long time. There's a lot of shared property, a lot of entanglements. If it goes to court, this could drag on for a year, maybe 2. I was prepared for a drawn-out battle. What I wasn't prepared for was how fast they struck back. That day I walked into the campus building like always, only to be stopped at the front desk. "Evelyn, I'm really sorry," the young woman said gently. "Your enrollment's been cancelled. The tuition's already been refunded. When your family came in, they told us you only signed up on a whim. They said someone your age couldn't commit to it and would eventually drop out to babysit your grandson anyway. They even threatened to call the police if we didn't process the refund. Said we were taking advantage of an elderly woman's poor judgment." She looked truly embarrassed. "We were put in a tough spot. I hope you understand." I stood there stunned. Then through the glass doors I saw them. Harold and Miles, waiting as if they'd timed it perfectly. Miles strolled over, grinning like he'd done me a favor. "Mom, class is over. Let's head home." Harold's expression was as sour as ever. If my son hadn't come up with this plan, who knows how much longer you would have kept playing around? The world dimmed for a second. My vision went dark at the edges. I clenched my fists and the fire in my chest surged to my throat. I yanked my arm away from Miles and stared them both down. Measured. Loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Who told you I was going back home with you?" I turned to Miles. "And where's the money they refunded?" He froze for a beat, then plastered on a crooked smile. "Mom, things with Amber have been rocky. She demanded a gift, wouldn't let it go, so I used the refund to buy her a necklace. Come on, we're family. Let's not nitpick over little stuff." I let out a cold laugh. "Oh sure. When they want my money, we're family. But the second I choose something for myself, suddenly I'm selfish, heartless, irresponsible." Classic double standard. I didn't waste another second. Pulled out my phone and dialed 3 numbers. "You took money from my private account without consent? That's theft. I'll let the police sort it out." At the station, Miles was still trying to worm his way out of it. "How is this theft? I'm her son. Her money's my money, right? What's she gonna do with some painting class anyway? She's 70. I used the money on something useful." Harold sat silently, his face a brick wall, tension radiating off him like heat. Finally he muttered, "God, what an embarrassment. I can't believe I married a woman like you." The officer looked at us, uncomfortable. "Your direct family," he said slowly. "In cases like this, it's hard for us to intervene. Technically, this falls under domestic financial matters." But I caught something in his tone. "So what you're saying is, if he took money that didn't belong to his mother, the law could step in, right?" The officer hesitated, then nodded. "From a legal standpoint, yes. That would be considered misappropriation." I smiled softly, coldly. "Perfect. Does Miles? That refund money, it wasn't mine." Then I called Joan. I'd left home in such a rush I didn't even have cash on hand. When the class asked for payment, Joan had covered it for me. 15 minutes later she stormed into the station, all fire and steel, eyes locked on Miles. "Hey kid," she said, grabbing the collar of his t-shirt with one hand. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to freeze the room. "Heard you spent the money I loaned your mother on jewelry for your wife?" Joan practiced karate back in the day. Still had the biceps and the spine for it. Miles stumbled backward, nearly hitting the counter. He pointed frantically at me. "It wasn't me who borrowed it." "He did. Go after her." That line hit me like a slap. I just stood there watching my son, the boy I raised with my own hands, disown any responsibility without blinking. 30-some years of raising him, and all I got was, "Take it up with her. Not my problem." Joan gave a low chuckle. "You used the money. You bought the gift. Don't want to pay it back? Fine. I'll just tack this onto the police record. Elder financial abuse, suspicious third-party fund transfer. Let's see how peaceful your life is once your mom's credit gets flagged and you're in every debt database in the state." Miles shut his mouth. Even the officer added, "Legally or not, she gave you money. You spent it. You owe her. Period." Eventually, Miles slinked over to the ATM, withdrew a wad of bills and reluctantly counted them out, over and over, like his fingers couldn't let go. I walked up, plucked the cash from his hand and smiled. "Miles, aren't we family? No need to be petty. What's all this fuss about anyway?" Both his and Harold's faces flushed beet red. Funny how people only understand pain when the blade finally turns on them. With the money in my purse, Harold finally spoke. His voice was scratchy, desperate to reclaim control. "Fine, you got your money. Now let's go home. Enough of this." He looked at me like I owed him something. I shook my head. "I'm not going home. I'm getting divorced." "Sign the papers, Harold. Let's schedule the court date and get it done." He exploded. "Divorce? That's all you ever say now. You're too old for this crap. Have you completely lost your mind?" But I was calm. Strangely calm. "Harold," I said softly, "don't forget, you were the one who said the word divorce first." That landed like a bucket of ice water. He stood frozen. Slowly the grip on my wrist loosened. He muttered something I didn't care to catch. Joan snorted and grabbed my hand. "Funny, isn't it?" she said. "You had a wife and didn't know how to treat her. Now she's gone and you act like the abandoned one. What a show." I paid the art class tuition again, this time without hesitation. And this time I painted with even more focus than before. Every session I practiced like it was my last. Every canvas I poured myself into it. One afternoon, after reviewing my latest pieces, Olivia, my instructor, looked at me, eyes gleaming. "Evelyn, there's something truly alive in your work." She paused, then added, "I want to recommend you for the Feather Award art competition. It's a respected name in our field, and it's a great opportunity for you to be seen." I hesitated, not feeling quite confident enough, but Olivia just smiled and gently patted my hand. "Don't worry," she said. "It's open to all ages. 65 is not a barrier. As long as you have talent, passion, and the courage to keep pushing, age can't silence you. The world will see you, eventually." Her words were like a steadying injection straight into my heart, clear, strong, and reassuring. In that moment, something locked into place inside me. I was ready. I began preparing for the competition. The theme was open. I thought long and hard. Eventually, I chose a single word: metamorphosis. It took me 2 full weeks to finish the piece. In the painting, a woman is swallowed by darkness, her body tangled in thick vines, crying out, struggling. But her eyes never leave the faint sliver of light in the upper left corner. That light is barely visible. But it's the one thing she won't let go of. That painting, it was me. My past life and the one I was just beginning to live. Both captured in that single frame. Every stroke traced the feeling of suffocation. Not a classic landscape, not a pretty portrait. But raw emotion, grief, defiance, and pain, breaking free from the prison of a family that never saw me. When Joan came by to see the finished piece, she stood there at first with her cup of tea, just admiring it. But a few minutes later, I saw her quietly wiping tears from her cheeks. She hugged me tightly and choked up as she whispered, "Evelyn, I see you. I really do. It takes so much to claw your way out of the muck at our age, to become someone again. It's not just brave, it's extraordinary. I'm proud of you. So proud." Joan's validation. In that moment, It was the warmest thing I'd felt in years. But life doesn't become smooth just because you start to grow. Miles and Harold kept calling, every few days like clockwork, desperate to pull me back. Sometimes Miles would take a softer approach. Mom, please come home. This place doesn't function without you. Aiden has no one to pick him up. The house is a mess, laundry's piled to the ceiling. We really need you. We miss you. And other times he'd snap back to venom. You're seriously this selfish? You're just a housewife. What's this crap about personal fulfillment? Have you ever been a good mother? A good wife? Have you done anything right in your life? I didn't answer a single word. Not one. Instead, I took my time, calm, steady, and mailed another copy of the divorce papers to their house. Each time. On the day I mailed the 39th copy of the divorce agreement, Miles finally snapped. He called, yelling so loud it distorted through the speaker. Mom, what the hell are you trying to prove? Do you even realize what this divorce has done to our family? Fine. You want to make us miserable? Then don't think we'll make it easy for you either. I didn't pay much attention to his last line. Not until the next morning. That's when the video went viral. The title read, "My 65-year-old mother abandoned her family to chase a painting dream. What should my dad and I do?" The first image was Miles. He looked worn down, dark circles under his eyes, hair unkempt, like he hadn't worked in months. "My mom's 65, he said, voice cracking. Out of nowhere, she decided she wanted to become an artist. Said she had a dream. Said she wanted a fresh start. She didn't care about the family. We were worried she was being scammed. She refused to listen. She said she wanted a divorce. Said she wasn't coming back. My dad, he was so stressed his blood pressure skyrocketed. The man who used to bike for miles every morning now just sits in silence by the window." The video cut to Harold wrapped in a blanket by the window, looking dramatically solemn. Miles covered his face and sobbed. "Since she left, there's no one to pick up my son. My wife and I are drowning. We're barely holding it together. Our home is falling apart. Internet friends, please, tell me what to do." He'd been in social media for years, had a few moderately popular accounts. This time playing the pitiful son worked. It caught fire. The comments poured in. Poor guy, and his poor dad getting sick over a selfish wife. My mom did the same. Retired, then disappeared to travel the world. I begged her to help with the baby, she said she needed space. I'm losing my mind here. As I read those comments, I felt fury and heartbreak twisting in my gut. In this world, women are expected to disappear behind their sacrifices. We're supposed to cook, babysit, clean, tend to husbands, until our joints go numb. And God forbid we want something for ourselves. One class. One painting. And suddenly we're selfish. Destructive. Suddenly we're the reason the house is falling apart. They didn't know. All I ever wanted was to become myself again. But the video kept spreading. There's no such thing as privacy anymore. Information moves faster than disease. In a matter of days, people had dug up my real name, my address, even the class schedule from the painting program. I only had a few social media apps, but that week my inbox exploded with abuse. Just because you're old doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want. You ruined your son's life. Each message felt like a needle stabbing into my eyes. Even Olivia's class was affected. People began leaving malicious reviews, accusing her of running a scam for gullible old women. Students dropped out. Anonymous complaints flooded in. Ratings plummeted overnight. It felt like a tidal wave had crashed into everything I'd built. And just as I was struggling to stay afloat, Miles called. This time his voice was smug, triumphant. "Mom, looks like the internet's not on your side, huh? Maybe it's time to come back to reality. You just say the word. Call off the divorce, come home, go back to how things were, and I'll post a video clearing it all up. Simple fix." Then he twisted the knife. "Let's be real. You're not exactly tech savvy. If this drags out, it's not going to end well, for you or that little art class of yours." I could hear Harold in the background laughing. "See? Told you. Everyone online agrees with me. You're too old for this nonsense." My fingers clutched the phone so tightly they turned pale. And just like that, whatever little scraps of softness I still held onto melted into steel. I took a slow, deliberate breath. Then I said calm and sharp, "Harold, let's not kid ourselves. They sided with you because they only heard your story, and not one word of it was true. I paused, and then let the corner of my mouth curl into a quiet smile. And Miles, who said I don't understand the internet. I used to know nothing about social media. But ever since moving in with Joan, something shifted. Her energy rubbed off on me, made me feel younger, lighter. And then there was Olivia, my art teacher born in the 90s, a whiz at all things digital. She taught me everything: how to edit videos, add subtitles, create eye-catching thumbnails. Before long I started my own channel. I called it Painting Granny. On it, I documented my quiet little world of art. My hands gripping a brush, my palettes of color, the soft spread of rice paper under morning light. Everything delicate. Everything honest. At first no one paid much attention. But I kept showing up, painting with care, speaking with sincerity. Slowly the numbers began to grow. And I thought, if Miles can use the internet to spin a story, why can't I use it to tell the truth? I dug out the original receipt for my art class tuition. I printed the police report from the day he took that money without my consent. Then I sat in front of the camera and recorded the very first response video of my life. I told a different story. The story of a woman who had lived her entire life for everyone else, losing herself in the process. Who, in the haze of her later years, finally saw a sliver of light and decided to follow it. Not to become some famous artist, but to revive a dream she was forced to bury decades ago. I wasn't spending a fortune, just $15 per class at a local community center. I wasn't being scammed, I was simply waking up. And the deepest cuts, I explained, didn't come from strangers. They came from the people sleeping beside you. At the end of the video I looked straight into the lens and spoke to every woman who might be watching. It's never too late to start again. Whether you're 30, 40 or, like me, 65. You have the right to take back your life. Olivia edited it for me, clean cuts, soft captions, and posted it across platforms. I never expected what happened next. It exploded. The video went viral. Fast. It was everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. It even hit the front page of trending topics. Thousands of comments flooded in. So that's what the son wanted, a free live-in nanny. I knew something felt off about his video. All crocodile tears. He just wanted someone to do his chores. My mom is 68. She watched this and sobbed for half an hour. She's always wanted to take a floral design class but was too scared to ask. Society controls women from the cradle to the grave. No breaks. No questions. I saw her paintings, they're beautiful. So full of feeling. If she'd had support 20 years ago, she would have been a star. I was overwhelmed. Messages poured in. People thanking me, strangers sharing their own heartbreak and courage. One private message read, "If I hadn't seen your video, I think I would have stayed trapped forever. I didn't know I could leave." That's when I realized, this wasn't just about me anymore. I wasn't just telling my story. I was speaking for every woman who had ever been trapped in a house she built for everyone else but herself. Who had dreams too, but locked them away out of fear. Out of duty. And if my story could be the flicker of light that showed them the way out, then I was more than proud. I was grateful. But for Miles, this storm turned out to be anything but worth it. His comment section became a war zone. Your kid is your responsibility, not your mom's. What's the excuse? No hands or no brain. I live in their neighborhood. His dad is never home, blows hundreds on cycling classes, disappears for weeks. That woman kept the whole damn house running by herself. Classic men protect men club. Dad wastes money, no one bats an eye. Mom wants to take a class and suddenly she's the villain. The original video? It had been posted using one of his company's media accounts. At first, when public opinion was on his side, the company looked the other way. But now that the tide had turned, even his co-workers were muttering about how he'd used his own mother for clout. Word got around that his performance bonus had been slashed. His position was downgraded. His job security? Hanging by a thread. And home wasn't the sanctuary it used to be, where all he had to do was walk through the door and the world took care of itself. Amber was constantly at his throat. Aiden cried nonstop. The diapers, the bottles, the crushed cereal underfoot. Miles was finally getting a taste of what it really meant to run a household. Before, all he had to do was sprawl on the couch and, like magic, dinner was served. The laundry was folded. The house sparkled. The baby giggled. He thought it was all part of some unspoken deal, what he deserved. But he forgot. Behind every effortless moment was a woman who had held her breath for decades, swallowing her own life just to make his easier. And Harold? Harold, too, had finally begun to understand what my presence meant. One afternoon he showed up outside my art studio looking hollowed out. No stiff posture. No angry scowl. For the first time he looked tired. Evelyn, he said, his voice worn and quiet. I don't want a divorce. What I said that day, you know I didn't mean it. I wasn't trying to hurt you. You can paint all you want. However long you want. Just come home. Please. His back was hunched now. His voice soft. The corners of his eyes drooping with age and regret. But I felt nothing. I shook his hand off me. Harold, I am getting this divorce. If you have even a shred of respect left for me, sign the papers. Let's end this with some dignity. His eyes reddened. His lip trembled slightly. I'm not signing, he said, barely above a whisper. Evelyn, we've been together for 40 years. I don't know how to live without you. Every morning I wake up wanting your sandwiches. I reach for the shirts you ironed. Even on my bike, I picture you adjusting my helmet, slipping water bottles into my bag. You need me? Well, I need you too. I looked at him steadily. Then don't sign, I said coolly. That's fine. I'm not in a hurry. I can wait. When we've been separated for 2 years and it's clear our marriage is beyond repair, I'll file for divorce myself. I'd rather spend 2 whole years waiting you out than spend 1 more day inside that house. My painting won first place in the Feather Award competition. The moment I saw the notification, Joan threw her arms around me in a hug so tight, I thought she might lift me clean off the ground. Her voice rang out like a fire alarm for the whole building to hear. Evelyn, you did it. You did it. Olivia's eyes turned glassy and she wiped them quickly, whispering, I knew it. I knew this award had your name on it from the start. I stared at the gold first place badge on my screen and for a moment I felt weightless. As if I'd traveled back in time, to when I was 20. Back then I owned 2 spare outfits, a bag of instant coffee and a suitcase filled mostly with air. The most valuable thing I carried? A handful of worn-out paintbrushes, given to me by Mr. Fletcher, the town librarian. He knew I loved to paint. On the day I left home he patted my shoulder and said, Evelyn, I'll be watching for your name in the art magazines. I hit the city with nothing but adrenaline and hope. During the day I worked at a canning factory. At night I wiped tables at a diner. The hours between 2 and 4 in the morning. Those were mine. That was when I painted. If I didn't paint I couldn't sleep. Eventually a local gallery owner noticed my work and bought one of my pieces. My first sale. After that I landed a junior spot at a modest design firm in the city. I thought, this is the start of something. And then I met Harold. He was charming back then. He'd make me tea while I painted, place the cup gently beside me and say, I'll always support you. Keep going, Evelyn. Keep painting. I believed him. I married him. Had his child. And then, my brushes were tucked away in a storage bin. My dreams soaked and softened in the suds of a washing machine. My hands swapped palettes for bottles and broomsticks for brushes. Dreams don't die all at once. They rot slowly. By the time I noticed the smell it was too late. It was already decomposing. But today, 40 years later, I stood in front of the world. Holding that same dream I once abandoned. The joy. It was electric. It traveled across the decades, across every sleepless night and buried wish. And finally landed right here in my 70-year-old hands. That night I sat at the edge of my bed, rereading the award notice over and over again. And then I cried. For a long time. But it wasn't sorrow. It was the quiet, overwhelming joy of watching the final piece of a lifelong puzzle fall exactly where it was always meant to be. My life at last felt whole. The Feather Award Committee invited me to attend the official ceremony. I arrived early before the event even began. Joan was beside herself with excitement. She insisted on volunteering for the day, just so she could see me walk the red carpet. The moment we got there, she snatched a volunteer vest from the front desk and slipped it on like she'd been on duty for years. When she ducked into the restroom, I took over her post and started handing out brochures at the entrance. And just like that, I turned and ran straight into Miles. He was wearing a staff badge, clearly one of the people working PR for the event. Behind him, of all people, was Harold. From their conversation, I gathered that some tickets had been misrouted by his company, so Miles decided to bring Harold along last minute. I had no intention of speaking to either of them, until Miles caught sight of me in the volunteer vest. He blinked, confused, then smirked in that familiar sour way I'd come to know too well. "Mom? What are you doing here?" His eyes dragged over me top to bottom like I was something he'd stepped in. "You volunteering now? What, they giving out free meals for this gig or something? You couldn't make it on your own, huh?" He gave a theatrical shrug. "Told you. You couldn't live without us. Now look at you, scraping by working events just to get fed." Then he added with a sneer, "You picked a good event to beg at, I'll give you that. I heard the Feather Awards being handed out today. Some old lady won. Last name Carter, I think. Too bad all you'll be doing is handing out flyers while someone else accepts the award. Some people are just born stuck, I guess." Harold, behind him, looked like he'd just sucked on something bitter. "Evelyn," he muttered. "Last time I saw you going on about independence and self-expression, I actually thought you had some talent." He sighed. "But now, I see it was all just talk." Then he reached out and patted my forehead like I was a confused child. His voice condescending, almost pitying. "No fever. So what's your excuse? At your age, shouldn't you know better than to start living in fantasy? There's a certain kind of laugh that only surfaces when you're too angry, or too amused, to say a single word. That's the laugh I gave them. If they'd spent 5 seconds looking at the award website, or even half a second paying attention to my life lately, they'd have spared themselves this embarrassing performance." I looked at them both, voice light as air. "Did it ever occur to you that the 65-year-old woman named Carter might be me?" Miles exploded. "You're kidding, right? Mom, I know your level. You couldn't even draw a straight line." Harold chimed in right behind him. "He's right. You fooled a few community college folks, sure, but this competition? It's for real artists. You're way out of your league." He even reached over again, like checking for signs of mental illness. "Not burning up. But you're clearly not thinking straight, Evelyn. You've really lost it." I wasn't interested in wasting another breath on either of them. Just then my phone rang. It was the committee, letting me know the ceremony was about to start. I turned to them calmly. "Then you'll want to stay seated," I said, "and watch carefully when they call my name." In truth, I couldn't wait to see their faces when the truth hit. Backstage, I changed out of the volunteer vest, touched up my makeup, and adjusted my posture in the mirror. I was just about to walk out when, of course, Miles appeared again. Apparently, he'd been assigned to manage part of the ceremony logistics. And once again he stood in my way. "Mom, what are you doing?" he hissed. "You think a new outfit and some lipstick makes you an award winner?" He grabbed at my sleeve, voice rising with panic. "You're delusional. You need to go home. You're going to embarrass yourself in front of the whole city." On stage, the announcer called for the 3rd time. "Winner of the Feather Award, Ms. Evelyn Carter. Please come to the stage." I could hear footsteps rushing down the steps behind the curtain. A staffer ran toward us, clearly looking for me. Before I could say a word, Miles jumped in front of him. "I'm sorry, I'm really sorry," he said quickly. "That's my mom. She's not well. She thinks she's won. Honestly, it's been hard. He gets these ideas. Says she's a big artist or something." He let out a nervous laugh, eyes sharp and smug. "But don't worry. We'll take her home. She won't cause a scene." Then he reached for me again. The staff member looked at him, baffled. "I'm sorry, sir, but that is Evelyn Carter." Miles froze. "What? No, she's not. She's a housewife. She hasn't worked in decades. She can't even draw straight." The staffer didn't respond. He just handed him a program booklet. My name. My photo. Clear as day. Miles stared at it. His mouth opened slightly. The blood drained from his face. His fingers released my sleeve. "Mom, you're that Evelyn Carter? The one who won the Feather Award?" I didn't answer. I simply walked past him onto the stage and took the trophy in my hands. And it wasn't just Miles. From the corner of my eye, I saw Harold in the audience. His jaw slack. His spine stiff. When they read my name, when they placed the award in my arms, he didn't move. First came confusion. Then came awe. And for a split second, he looked just like the man I met all those years ago. Back when I still believed he'd keep his promise. To always support my art. That year, in a small downtown gallery, he saw me for the first time. Later, Harold told me, "I'd never met a girl like that before. The way your eyes lit up when you talked about painting, your whole body seemed to glow." After that, he pursued me relentlessly. We stayed up late together. Me at the easel, him in the kitchen brewing tea. His favorite thing to do was stand behind me while I painted, wrap his arms around my waist and whisper, "Evelyn, this is incredible. One day the whole world is going to see your work." But life doesn't always keep its promises. The man who once vowed to chase dreams beside me learned instead how to hide. He stopped standing behind me, started locking himself in the car, chain-smoking cigarettes, while I stayed in the kitchen, alone in the noise of a crying child, a spinning washer, and a house that never stopped demanding more. And slowly, piece by piece, I gave up on myself. It was those quiet, brutal days, the ones that blurred into each other, that made me forget who I used to be. But today, I remembered. The girl who glowed when she held a paintbrush? She never left. She was just waiting to be seen again. Harold must have remembered too. After the award ceremony ended, he approached me slowly, hands rubbing against his pants seams, a look of awkward hesitation on his face. "Evelyn," he said, voice soft, "congratulations. You always loved painting so much. I guess this means you finally got what you wanted." Then came the nostalgia. I still remember the first time I saw you in that little gallery. You were holding a brush and it was like you were lit from the inside. I've never seen anything so beautiful. If only you hadn't given it up back then. If you'd kept at it. I swear I never would have stood in your way. I let out a quiet, bitter laugh. "Harold, do you really not know why I gave it up?" As I was breastfeeding, doing laundry, scrubbing floors, changing diapers, putting babies to sleep. And when our son grew up, I worried about his mental health, his eating habits, his grades, his posture. And just when I started to breathe again, our grandson was born. And it started all over. You think I chose to stop painting? And where were you? You were on business trips, gone for months at a time. You were downstairs, sleeping in your car instead of coming up to help. You were spending hundreds on cycling retreats, off chasing freedom, while I was choking on the weight you left behind. I looked him dead in the eye. "No one knows better than you why I gave it all up." His face went pale. His mouth opened like he wanted to respond, but no sound came. Because what could he say? There was no defense. I sighed and said the only thing left to say. "I'll keep mailing the divorce papers. When you're ready, sign them. You've already spent 40 years draining me dry. At least do this one decent thing, end it. Call it karma, Harold. Or mercy. Take your pick." He never signed. And I never went back to that house. Word has it, things didn't go so well for Miles after that day backstage at the awards ceremony. The ridiculous stunt he pulled, trying to drag me off stage like I'd lost my mind, sparked a full internal investigation at his company. He was fired. And just like that, the pressure closed in. With no job and mounting bills, the household descended into chaos. He and Amber fought constantly. Their worst argument, reportedly over Harold's insistence on continuing his $200 per session cycling class. Miles had screamed across the living room, "Dad, that's half a year of Aiden's tuition. What, you training for the Olympics now?" Harold didn't back down. "You barely bring in a dime. Who are you to tell me how to spend mine?" The two of them, once thick as thieves, nearly came to blows. So much for the great father-son alliance. You see, men like them only function well when there's a scapegoat. When I was around, they could pin everything on me. The chaos, the stress, the sacrifices. Then band together in righteous indignation and paint me the villain. But once I stopped playing the role they needed me to play, they turned on each other. Amber came to see me not long after. She brought Aiden, held him close, her voice barely above a whisper. "Evelyn, I'm so sorry. Since you left, I've realized how hard raising a child really is. All the things you used to do for us, I never appreciated them. I never realized how much you were carrying. And the way I spoke to you." She trailed off, guilt in every word. I listened. I didn't say much. I heard her apology. But I didn't feel the need to hold on to anger. Yes, she'd once called me selfish, irresponsible, ungrateful. But I also knew. She wasn't born cruel. She was raised with the same script women like us had always been handed. That raising children is a woman's job. That elder women must serve. That sacrifice is just what we do. She didn't invent those expectations. She just passed them down. Like so many of us have. So I didn't blame her. As I knew. One day she'd stand exactly where I had once stood. And when she did, she'd understand. 2 years went by in what felt like a blink. Harold and I officially divorced. 2 years of legal separation, emotional estrangement, and irreversible cracks. And finally it was done. During those 2 years I poured myself into my work. I held my first solo exhibition. Then a touring gallery in San Francisco and Boston. Critics called my work a blend of contemporary form and emotional realism. I'd found a voice. And an audience. I was finally becoming known. Miles tried to latch on. Jobless, desperate, he reached out. Wanted a referral. A contact. A letter of recommendation to a design firm I'd worked with. I didn't hesitate. I said no. And more than that, I made a public statement within my professional community. I no longer recognized Miles as my son. I was clear. He's the man who once tried to destroy my life. Infuriated, he tried spinning the narrative again. Started reaching out to media under the headline, "I'm the son of Evelyn Carter." But the internet never forgets. It didn't take long before someone pulled up the old viral video. The one where he'd accused me of abandoning my family to chase a fantasy. The comments turned savage. You called her insane and now you want to profit off her success? Pathetic. Your mom got famous and you came crawling. Predictable. She built herself back up and now you want to ride on the ladder you once tried to kick down. The backlash was immediate. Relentless. Within a week, Miles deleted every one of his accounts. He finally had enough. Filed for divorce, took Aiden and left. I didn't interfere. Every person must live with the consequences of what they've done. And Harold? He didn't get a happy ending either. 2 months ago during a cycling trip on the interstate he fell. Crushed his spine. Complete paralysis from the waist down. The doctors said he'd never walk again. He sent word, asked if I would visit. Joan asked gently, "Will you go?" After 40 years together, maybe just once. I shook my head. No. I don't owe him that. 40 years of pain repaid any debt I ever had. I had better things to do. After the awards, as my name gained recognition, I kept learning. Kept growing. From $15 community classes to private instruction with top-tier mentors. Now $600 a session. And I pay it gladly. With pride. I no longer ask if my dreams are worth it. I know they are. Because now everyone knows. I am. 2 years ago I had nothing. No money. No name. No plan. Just a shattered marriage and a will to stand. Today I have my canvas. My applause. My stage. And most of all, I have myself. I no longer sacrifice for anyone. I live for me.